My wealthy uncle took. Main when my parents left, me behind at Ateida. 15 years later, they arrived at his will reading expecting millions until the lawyer read one line that made every head. In the room snap. It was 11:51 p.m. I was in the office of our McMansion, the one I basically paid for finalizing a business proposal that was supposed to fund our brand for the next quarter. An email notification chimed A. It was from my mother, Brenda. Subject: Re-Aspen Trip Logistics. I opened it and saw the forwarded chain. Her message sent to a friend was at the top. Everything is set. Just the four of us. Bringing Haley is just inconvenient. She doesn't really fit the brand we're trying to build. Seconds later, my phone lit up. A group text from my sister Morgan. Can't wait for a real family trip tech. Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I'd love to know who's part of our community. I read the word inconvenient one more time. The expensive faux Tuscan walls of the house felt suddenly cold. I didn't cry. I didn't text them back, asking why I didn't feel anger, not the hot kind. What I felt was clarity. It was sharp and cold and absolute. They were right. I didn't fit their brand. Their brand was built on lattes and networking mixers and buying expensive things they couldn't afford to look successful. My brand was the late-night code that made the e-commerce site function. My brand was the spreadsheet that moved money around to keep the lights on. I was the inconvenient architect of their entire fantasy. So, I opened my laptop. It was 12:01 a.m. First, I logged into the business backend, the one my father Kevin never bothered to learn because it was too complicated. I went to the User Permissions tab, Brenda Administrator. Click Revoke. Morgan Administrator. Click Revoke. Second, I logged into the corporate Amex portal, the one linked to my personal credit line, a fact they conveniently forgot. I saw the recent charges new ski boots for Morgan, a $2,000 spa deposit in Aspen for Brenda. I clicked freeze card on hers. I clicked freeze card on Morgan's. Third, I pulled up the reservation for the $25,000 Aspen ski lodge, the one with the private hot tub and the mountain views all booked under my name. The cancellation policy was strict 72 hours. I looked at the clock. It was 12:03 a.m. I was still well within the window. A single click. Confirm cancellation. A small automated email receipt popped into my inbox. It was done. I closed the laptop. The house was silent again, but it was a different kind of silence. It wasn't loneliness. It was accounting. This wasn't a family drama. It was a business dissolution, and I had just filed the paperwork. You're probably thinking my reaction was extreme, that canceling a family trip over a mean email was petty. But you have to understand, I wasn't just the inconvenient daughter. I was the silent investor. I was the architect of the very brand they were trying to build. While my father Kevin was busy networking at the golf club, and my mother Brenda was picking out new chandeliers for the McMansion, I was the one awake until 3 a.m. debugging the code for the e-commerce backend that paid for those chandeliers. While my sister Morgan was posting about her influencer lifestyle, I was the one quietly transferring $15,000 to the county last quarter to stop a foreclosure notice on our house. The notice they'd forgotten to tell me about until it was almost too late. And my youngest sister Kayla, the artistic one, I was the one paying her $50,000 a year tuition for that private art school in the city. because Kayla has a gift, Haley. We have to support her gift. I had been supporting all of them. I was the asset, and they had just called me a liability. It's a classic dynamic, isn't it? I've learned about it since. In narcissistic family structures, there are always roles. They had cast my sisters, Morgan and Kayla, as the golden children. They were the shiny, brand-friendly, effortless successes. They were the ones meant to be seen. And that made me the scapegoat. My role was just as important. I was the workhorse. I was the one who was supposed to be serious and responsible and invisible. My purpose wasn't to join the success. My purpose was to fund it. My hard work was the necessary ugly engine that powered their beautiful, effortless image. By being inconvenient, by wanting a seat on the trip I paid for, I was breaking the rules. My presence, my seriousness, my actual work, it threatened the illusion that their success was easy. I wasn't just an inconvenience. I was a threat to the brand. I looked at that email one more time and I finally understood my real position in this company. It wasn't daughter, it was unpaid creditor. And I decided it was time to collect. I didn't have to wait long. I slept for about 4 hours, not in my own room, but in the guest room. It felt appropriate. At 7 a.m., my phone didn't just ring, it exploded. The first text was from Kayla, my youngest sister. All caps. "What did you do? My tuition payment was declined. Haley, this isn't funny. You are being ridiculous. You have to fix this. I have midterms." I read the word ridiculous. I sipped my water. I deleted the text. A minute later, my older sister Morgan. "The Aspen trip is gone. The entire reservation is gone. You ruined everything. You actually ruined everything for everyone just because your feelings were hurt. Dad is going to kill you." She wasn't wrong that my feelings were hurt, but she was missing the entire point. This wasn't about my feelings. This was about their balance sheet. Then came the text from my mother, Brenda. Her tone was no longer emotional. It was cold, clipped, and furious. "You have created an absolute mess. Your father, Kevin, is livid. I don't know what childish game you think you're playing, but you have embarrassed this entire family. You need to fix this. Immediately, fix this." It was always fix this. Fix the foreclosure notice. Fix the bad e-commerce code. Fix the fact that Kayla's tuition was due. My job was to be the fixer, the silent, responsible, inconvenient fixer. I didn't text back. I didn't call. I went downstairs to the kitchen past the gaudy chandelier Brenda had spent a week picking out and made myself a cup of coffee. I drank it black, staring out the window at the perfectly manicured lawn that my $15,000 tax payment had saved. An hour later, my phone buzzed one last time. It was a Facebook notification. My mother had tagged me in a public post. I opened it. It was a smiling photo of her Kevin, Morgan, and Kayla from last Christmas, all wearing matching pajamas. The caption read, "It's so sad when some children forget the family who gave them absolutely everything. Success can really make people cruel and ungrateful. We are just heartbroken over this betrayal." I read the post. I watched the comments flood in. "Oh, Brenda, that's awful. We're praying for you. Some people are just snakes in the grass." They weren't just leaving me behind. They were preemptively painting me as the villain to their entire social circle. They weren't just trying to make me inconvenient. They were trying to erase me and rewrite the story to make themselves the victims. That was the last piece of proof I needed. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't an oversight. It was a strategy. And they had just made their final move. I felt nothing. Just a profound, cold silence. I finished my coffee. This wasn't a family argument anymore. This was a legal matter, and it was time to make my own call. I didn't call them back. I let the Facebook post sit there gathering a predictable chorus of, "Oh, Brenda, you're so strong," and "We're praying for you." I let the angry entitled texts from Morgan and Kayla pile up unread. This had stopped being a family argument at 11:51 p.m. This was a professional escalation. And you don't respond to a public declaration of war with an emotional text message. You respond with a lawyer. I picked up my phone and made a call not to anyone in that house, but to Boston. The phone rang twice, and a calm, deep voice answered. Arthur. Just his name. My great-uncle Arthur. The old money black sheep of the family. The one who lived in a historic brownstone filled with books and legacy, not a McMansion filled with trendy furniture and debt. My father Kevin despised him. Arthur was a high-powered corporate lawyer, and for the last few years he had been my secret mentor. "Uncle Arthur," I said. My voice was perfectly steady. "It's Haley." "I know," he said. There was no surprise in his tone. "I've been wondering when you'd finally decide to look at the balance sheet." "They did it," I said, skipping the small talk. "They put it in writing. An email. Brenda said I was inconvenient and didn't fit the brand." There was a long pause on the line. I didn't hear anger. I heard something that sounded like satisfaction. "Good," he said finally. "It's one thing to feel it, Haley. It's another thing to have a receipt, a written confession. Now we have a reason to act." "What's my move?" I asked. "Your move is to do nothing," he said, his voice turning sharp. "You are no longer a daughter. You are a majority shareholder in a hostile partnership. I am connecting you with a colleague of mine in your state. Her name is Diaz. She is, to put it politely, a shark. And she is now your shark. You will forward her everything. The email, the texts, the Facebook post. You will not speak to your family again. Not one word. Is that clear?" "Clear," I said. "Good. And Haley, yes, welcome to the fight. Try to enjoy the opening round." He hung up. An hour later, I was on a video call with Miss Diaz. She was all business sharp and clinical. I forwarded her every document, the email, the screenshots, the bank statements, showing my $15,000 tax payment, the $50,000 tuition wires to Kayla's school. Her response was fast and cold. "This is clean. You're not just a shareholder, Miss Haley. You're their primary secured creditor. They're in breach." That afternoon, a legal notice was drafted and sent via courier to my father, Kevin, as CEO. It was simple, cold, and professional. It stated that as the 51% majority shareholder, I was formally initiating the buyout clause in our corporate charter. They had 30 days to buy my shares at their full, independently assessed market value. If they failed to secure the funds in 30 days, I would move to dissolve the company and liquidate all assets to recover my equity and my loans, including the house. As I watched the courier's truck pull away from the curb, I thought about how calm I felt. I should have been terrified. I should have been a wreck, but I wasn't. And I realized why. It's something I later learned is called the Pygmalion effect. It's the psychological principle that says simply people rise or fall to meet the expectations you have for them. My entire life, my family had expected me to be the invisible fixer, the responsible, quiet, inconvenient doormat. They expected me to absorb the cost, and so I did. I hunched my shoulders, I paid the bills, I stayed silent. But Arthur, from the moment he found me, he expected something else entirely. He didn't see a doormat. He saw a strategist. He didn't see an inconvenience. He saw an intellect. He gave me books on corporate law. He asked me to analyze stock trends. He spoke to me like a colleague, not a child. My family expected me to be a resource. Arthur expected me to be brilliant. In this moment, I wasn't acting as Brenda's daughter. I was acting as Arthur's protege. And I had no intention of letting him down. The 30-day clock was ticking. My family had gone completely silent. No more angry texts, no more Facebook posts. Just a heavy, panicked silence. They were probably scrambling, trying to find a bank that would give them a loan to buy me out, all while expecting me to break first. They expected me to feel guilty, to get scared, and to come crawling back to fix the mess I had made. I didn't. I just forwarded every new manipulative email from my father's accountant to Miss Diaz and waited. She called me 1 week before the deadline. Her voice wasn't emotional. It was energized. It was the same tone Arthur used when he found a fatal flaw in a contract, the one that meant the fight was already over. "Miss Haley," she said, "I'm conducting the financial due diligence for the buyout as requested. I'm looking at the original articles of incorporation from 12 years ago." "Okay," I said. "Your father, Kevin, is listed as the co-founder, putting in an initial capital investment of $100,000. Do you know where that money came from?" "I always assumed it was his savings," I said. "Or a loan." "It wasn't Diaz," said her voice sharp and clinical. "It was withdrawn from an inheritance trust fund, in your name, established by your great-grandfather." The world tilted. My blood went cold. A trust fund? I didn't have a trust fund. All I had from my great-grandfather was the antique pocket watch Arthur had given me on my 14th birthday. I don't understand," I whispered. "Uncle Arthur gave me the watch from that fund. He said it was just a small family heirloom. He never said anything about money." "He was likely being precise," Diaz said, "because I'm looking at the bank records. 12 years ago, there was a single one-time withdrawal from that trust. $100,000. The exact amount Kevin used to start this company. And I have the withdrawal slip right here." She paused. "The signature on the form. It's not yours." I sat down. I couldn't feel my hands. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I've cross-referenced the signature with your driver's license, your passport, and the corporate documents you signed last year. It's not even a good forgery, Haley. He faked your signature. He stole your inheritance to start the very company he just tried to kick you out of. This wasn't just betrayal. This wasn't just being inconvenient. This was a felony." And suddenly 12 years of my father's resentment made perfect, sickening sense. The way he always bristled when I did well. The way he absolutely hated Uncle Arthur. It wasn't just old family rivalry. It was the terror of a criminal looking at the only man alive who probably knew the truth. Arthur knew. He knew my father was a common thief, just one dressed in a McMansion and a designer suit. Diaz's voice snapped me back. "So this changes everything, Haley. The 30-day buyout notice is now irrelevant. The 51 divided by 49 corporate structure is fraudulent from its inception. He used stolen funds, your funds, to create this entity." She took a breath. "As far as the law is concerned, that company and all of its assets, they are 100% unequivocally yours. All its assets." I looked around the gaudy, overpriced living room. The chandelier Brenda loved so much. The Italian leather sofas. "The house," I whispered. "Yes," Diaz said. "The house, too. It was purchased as a corporate asset. and you own the corporation. The forgery changed everything. The 30-day notice, the 51% buyout. All of it was void. It wasn't a partnership. It was a crime scene. Miss Diaz laid it out simply: the entire company built on my stolen $100,000 inheritance was legally mine, which meant the brand, the inventory, the bank accounts, and the McMansion, which had been purchased as a corporate asset, all belonged to me. I had my lawyer file the motions. The panic must have been immediate because it wasn't a text or a call this time. It was the doorbell. I opened it, and there she was. Brenda. This wasn't the Brenda from the email, the one obsessed with the brand. This wasn't the angry woman from the text demanding I fix my mess. This was someone I had never seen before. Her eyes were red and puffy. Her expensive designer clothes were wrinkled as if she'd slept in them. The mask wasn't just cracked, it was shattered. "Haley," she gasped, her voice raw. She actually reached for my arm. "Please, you have to stop this." I just looked at her. I felt nothing. No anger, no pity, just quiet. The art of silence Uncle Arthur had taught me. I didn't have to fill the space. I just had to wait. They're talking about criminal charges." She whispered the words, catching in her throat. "For your father. For Kevin. They're going to—" He could go to. "Haley, please." She tried to force a sob, but it came out like a dry heave. "They're seizing the accounts. They're going to take the house. Do something. If not for us, do it for your sisters. For Kayla, where will she go?" Ah, there it was. The last desperate attempt to use my sister as a shield. I let the silence hang in the air for one long, cold second. I let her feel the full weight of it. Then I turned, walked to the hall table, and picked up a single folded document. I had Miss Diaz courier it to me that morning. I walked back and handed it to her. She stared at it, her hands trembling. "What? What is this?" I already did something. I said, my voice perfectly, even perfectly calm. "That's an official eviction notice. You have 30 days to vacate the property. This is for you." Her face went from desperate to horrified. The blood drained from her face. Eviction. "But, Haley, I'm your mother." The word sounded foreign, like a term from a contract that had expired 12 years ago. I looked her straight in the eye. "Goodbye, Brenda." And I closed the door. The rest was just accounting. Kevin, faced with irrefutable proof of forgery and the threat of a long-term prison sentence, took a plea deal. He admitted to everything. The company I built was legally dissolved. The McMansion, with its gaudy chandeliers and fake Tuscan columns, was sold in less than a week. The money, every last cent of the original $100,000, plus 12 years of damages and recovered assets, was wired to a new private account. In Boston, I was in my new apartment, a quiet place in the Back Bay, just a few blocks from Arthur's brownstone. It was raining. I opened my laptop and found the old spreadsheet I'd kept for years, the one titled Family Debt. I looked at the grand total, the running tab of every tuition payment, every tax bill, every loan I'd given them. I stared at the number for a long time. Then I highlighted the cell and I hit delete. I took the antique pocket watch from my desk. I wound it. The steady, quiet tick-tock was the only sound in the room. And that's when I finally understood. That email at 11:51 p.m., it wasn't a curse. It was the key. The single most valuable gift they ever gave me. Their rejection, their decision that I was inconvenient, was the brutal necessary act that forced me to stop building their fake life so I could finally start building a real one. If you've ever felt like the inconvenient one, share this story, not as revenge, but as a reminder that your value is never ever up for negotiation. Thank you for listening.